Hi, everybody. This is Ana Maria from Evolve, and we have a special guest, Kane, with us today, all the way from beautiful Australia, to share his magic. And we're going to start this mastermind by a brief introduction, and I'm going to tell you a brief story that tells more about the topic of today's mastermind. And since today's topic is about storytelling, indeed, I'm going to tell you a very brief story from something that happened to me this morning. I have a very good friend from Bulgaria, and we've been friends since high school. And as you can imagine, relationships develop since high school. Does anybody here keep in touch with somebody from your childhood or youth? Anybody? Kane, do you have any? Yes, all of us have, right? And you probably would agree that when you are a teenager, your communication skills are not as evolved as they are when you are an adult. And my friend, her name is Gary, she is the opposite of me in certain ways. I am the person who is always going to look at the bright side of things, and she's the opposite. As much as I'm optimistic, she's pessimistic. And even though we love each other very much, of course, you could imagine that there were moments, especially when we were 15 and 16 years old, where we would clash, right? I'll be the one looking for the positive, and she'll be the one looking for the negative. And the reason I'm telling you this story is because as I evolved my communication style in my practice as a coach and as a human being, I started to understand that the secret to healthy communication is in the ability to understand what the other person is experiencing, even when it's different than your experience. So I started adapting my communication style to her needs. And when she started venting about something, I would hold space for her. I would say things like, yeah, oh, this sucks. Oh my God, he said that, and be on her map, And we had this situation today. She shared something that she's going through, and I empathize with her and I held space for her. And interestingly enough, in the past, she would confront me with my positive suggestions. And today, because I held space for her and I was on her map of emotional experience, by the end of our conversations, she was receptive to my suggestions, right? And again, the reason I'm telling you this is because stories are how we connect. Even though we are so different, we are now connecting from different continents. And regardless of that, we are so alike in our pains and in our problems. Many of us have experienced heartache or breakups, or some of us divorce. Some of us have children. Some of us have friends who have children. Some of us have been in a very traumatic situation, and ultimately we are so connected when we share this story from the heart. And as everybody here knows, when you are authentic, when you connect to the other person from the heart, when you allow yourself to be known, to be seen, to be heard, the other person can feel it. And this is how you create heart-to-heart coherence. And instead of building bridges, we build connection. And because of the power of connection, you can meet people from around the world, exactly how Kane and I met serendipitously. And this is the power of story. He has a powerful story to share, and so do I, so do everybody here. And this is the power of community and belonging when you share this empowering goals. And the reason I invited Kane in our community is because he has this rare ability to merge presence with authenticity, to merge storytelling with active listening, and most importantly, to speak from a place of authority and authenticity. These are skills that are very difficult to master, as you know, and this is why I'm so happy and excited to have him with us today. Can everybody unmute themselves and give it up for Kane? Woo! Yay!
Woo!
Awesome.
Ana Maria, thank you so much. It is amazing to be here, everyone, and beautiful introduction. And you have raised so many interesting points, Ana Maria. It is communication and being heart coherent with people around us. So we're our ability to connect emotionally to one another is where we truly make an energy transfer an energy transaction with each other that releases oxytocin. And oxytocin is one of the most important aspects to create connection. And when we tell stories, when people are listening and they can see themselves in your story, they can see a part of their existence in your story, they release oxytocin. They feel for you, but at the same time, they're resonating with you. And all of a sudden, you've created an energy transfer with this person. Now, that person could be on the other side of the world reading a story of yours, just like when you're reading a novel, a fictitious novel, and you fall in love with the main character and they go through some sort of challenge. And I remember reading books where there would be a rape scene or something, and I would throw the book down and I'd be angry and emotional. I'd be, I can't believe that happened to that character, right? That's the oxytocin. That's the compassion and the empathy that we're translating between the pages. If that person was a real person, like myself or you, and you were sharing your story and someone was reading it, let's use an example, social media on the other side of the world, they are connecting emotionally as energy travels through the waves and it can go through to the other side of the universe, and it affects people. And that notion of, let me just ask you, has anyone been through that experience where you're thinking about someone and either that day or the next day they call you? Hey, I was just thinking about you, right? That's the energy of thought, but it's also normal most of the time, actually 100% of the time, that thought is connected to an energy, which is an emotion. So when you're actually thinking about that person, there's an explosion of emotion which comes from the heart, which is what resonates out into the universe. And that's what actually people are feeling. The heart space. So the heart resonates 5,000 times more powerful than the mind. So thoughts are very powerful. Words are even more powerful. But when words are connected to an emotion, and when they're said with heart, and even when they're writing, when you're writing and you write with intention in that heart space, it fills it with an energy. And that energy will go out into the ether, go out into the universe in waves. It's like throwing a pebble out into the creek and creating a ripple effect. It just keeps going. So storytelling is about truth. It's about honesty. It's about authenticity. It's about vulnerability. Now I know Anna Marie has brought up the story extraction method, and Victoria brought up a couple of things about health and energy and things like that. And I wasn't going to bring this up, but I might see if I can get this in screen. Let me see. Can you see? Let me see if I can show you all this. This is really important in understanding the 4 pillars of your existence. Can everyone see that? Or we're a bit low. Give me a second. Can everyone see that? Yes, thumbs up. Great. Okay. I'm on an angle. There we are. Okay, so this is really, really important to understand. Our life is associated to energy. Our existence is connected to energy. Our existence is super important in all storytelling. Our expression is the next pillar. Energy, existence, expression. And it all leads to the heart center and the soul, which is evolution, our growth and our purpose. Energy, and I'm bringing this up for Victoria, well, this is body and fuel. What are you doing with your body? Are you exercising? Are you doing yoga? Are you meditating? What things are you bringing in to enhance your energy to be present? Because everything is about presence. The more you're present in any form, shape, leadership, speaking, listening. Listening is super important. It's an energy. Listening is an energy. Your ability to be present, to listen to someone is transferring. You might not be saying anything, but the energy is open. Your ability to open your energy to listen, to be present, is your existence. Your existence is your presence and your awareness. Awareness of self, awareness of your journey, and the presence of who you are. Your expression. Now, this is all about relationships and communication, but this is also a relationship of self, relationships of others, and how you communicate your true self to the ones around you and yourself. As a leader, your expression is super important. This is one of the most important pillars as a leader, your expression. How are you communicating to yourself and the relationships around you? Is it from a place of being present in your existence? And is it allowing them, the other, the person, the people around you, to be present in their existence so they're seen and heard? We only can pull out the best out of people if they feel safe. And that goes in all forms of relationships. If they feel safe, they will feel like they can trust to be seen and heard. Our evolution is our growth, our purpose. Without understanding our existence, it will affect the energy of our expression. If we have blocks around our existence, which is our story, which is your personal journey, it will affect your energy. It's what I call the corridor of life. As we go through life, if we don't, there is many scenarios when we're a child, when we're going through life, where we don't have the tools necessary to deal with the situation. Grief, loss, arguments, betrayal. Those types of things is what I call shutting the door on the experience, because we don't have the tools to process to get to a place of healing and release. And as we get older, we notice that there are certain blocks around certain things. Well, there's a trigger. Trigger to smell, trigger to sight, trigger to taste, trigger to sound, the tone. These things are all connected. Now, the story extraction method, which is super, super important to understand, there's a few stages. One of those stages is the claim. Now, the claim is associated to something that happened in your past that kept recurring in your mind. Now, what I discovered was that the claim itself was always a projection of someone else. It was never yours and never belonged to you. But what we do as people, what we do as humans, is that when we're feeling weaker in our acceptance of ourselves, and someone of authority or someone that's higher than us puts us in a position where they say something, do something, that then creates words in our mind that we then claim as our own, and we put them into our subconscious. Those particular words associated to that claim are the limiting beliefs that keep recurring. So as we get older, we're always confronted. Like people will go, oh, I have this, this is blocking me, or I feel like this is blocking me. It's constantly the same thing associated to different people. Different people have different limiting beliefs, and it's all associated to the recurring inner dialogue that is going on, which always comes from the original claim. So the reason why I do the story extraction method is because when we look at our life, our existence, we can see that there is a golden thread that goes through our journey to bring us to where we are now in the present. That thread, there are no mistakes. There's no mistakes in your existence. Nothing is an accident. Everything was there for a particular purpose. And when we understand it, when we can see it, when we see the golden thread, when we connect the dots, we understand that there was a recurring dialogue inside our subconscious that was leading the procession in certain things that were challenging us, creating new dynamic experiences. So there's, after the claim, what we tend to do is that we start creating achievements in our own life. There's certain achievements that we do. We go and chase things. Now, the really interesting thing about the claim is that we always go in opposite consciously from the claim, and this is where people get confused. We go opposite from the original dialogue of the claim, and we go on the hunt for purpose and success. That purpose and success is the conscious forcing of us looking, and it always comes back to love. Everything always comes back to love. So our claim is always an opposite of what our chase, our hunt for purpose and success is. It might not make a lot of sense right now, but I'm explaining this process so you can understand part of my methodology. There's a crash that happens normally between late in the teens to early 20s. The first crash that people go through changes perspective. People change their perspective, their view of the world. Something happens. After that is the ultimate crash. Normally happens anywhere between 30s and 40s. Depending on your age, you'll get another ultimate crash. Something that changes, again, the perspective of the way that you look at yourself, the way that you look at life, the way that you look at the world. All of these things are interconnected. And then people will go through a breakthrough, which is a surface level breakthrough. They start going, aha, this is the awakening. The opening of the awakening. Oh my God, I just realized something. After the breakthrough, there is the soul breakthrough. So the breakthrough is all surface level stuff. I start making sense of it. There's this that happened to me. But once we get to the soul breakthrough, we actually connect those scenarios to ourselves. Because remember, we are only, whatever is happening on the outside is a reflection of what's going on the inside. Once we acknowledge that everything is self, everything is associated to our journey and the way that we perceive our journey, and that we are always in control of the way that we perceive the story that we've been through. Our story is always associated to thoughts and memories, and that is also associated to emotions. So the memory will hold on to the emotion, depending on what emotion had happened at that time. Your thought will be connected to those, and those three things keep spinning around until you change the perspective of how you wish to see that memory that's happened in your life. Once you see that, and you can acknowledge it and shift it into something, remember the law of polarity. I know there's a lot that I've only got a short amount of time, so I'm going to bombard you. So if there's anyone that starts going, whoa, I have a question. Just put your hand up and raise a question. I'm happy to discuss something. I lost my train of thought. So once we understand the connection of the law of polarity, when there is a negative, there is always a positive at exactly the same time. Exactly the same time. Nothing exists without a positive and a negative at exactly the same time. So if we go into the science of that, everything around us, the camera that I'm looking in, the computer that's in front of me, the stool that I'm sitting on, everything is made up of atoms and cells and molecular structure, right? Every single one of those proteins, the atoms, the neurons, they all have a positive and negative terminal. Even our body. For the 70 trillion cells that are in our human body, each individual one is running at 0.07 volts. They all run like a battery. There's a positive and negative. Nothing exists without a positive and negative at exactly the same time. Your choice is always to choose, well, what am I going to focus on? Do I focus on the positive or do I focus on the negative? And that's the way we need to look at our story. This is really important because there is always a positive and a negative. Everything operates as energy. Your story is an energy. It exists inside you as a memory. That memory is an energy. That energy, if you feel guilt, if you feel shame around a particular memory, guess what? It resonates inside you. It's an energy. For us to be able to go to a higher frequency, for us to be able to step into a state of leadership consistently, that's authentic, we must sit in a place of understanding ourselves first. And there's 5 steps that's really, really important, and I want you to write these down. Acknowledgement. Our very first step on our way to freedom, this is all about freedom. This is all about being authentic. This is all about us. Our very first step is acknowledgement. First, we have to acknowledge that something happened and that we were involved and that it was associated to us and there was a reason for it. And that particular reason is for the evolution. Remember, the 4th pillar, evolution, was the evolution of our soul, of our existence, so we can connect to our expression with authenticity, so we can raise our energy. Once we acknowledge, this is the second one, we have to accept. We have to accept that it happened. We have to accept that we were involved. We have to accept that it's part of the journey. We have to accept that there was a lesson in it. Sometimes we don't see the lesson in a scenario when we're in the heat of battle. But there always is, there always will be. It's our job, ourselves, our individual selves, to take responsibility to discover what that lesson was for the evolution of our soul. Third step, forgiveness. We must forgive. We must forgive our part within a scenario, ourselves, because we only knew what we knew at the time. Hindsight is a wonderful thing, but once something has played out, it has played out. and our acknowledgement, acceptance, and forgiveness of that scenario for what we knew and understood at that particular time of our evolution, of our growth. That's all part of our story, our acceptance, our acknowledgement, our forgiveness of ourselves. We also have to forgive the other person involved, or the many people involved. Because your journey, let me give you this. So if you can just see yourself, just close your eyes for a second. Everyone just close your eyes for a second. Just close your eyes. Just take a deep breath in and close your eyes. And I just want you to feel your body. Now take a nice deep breath in. Just allow yourself to feel that breath coming in and going out. Deep breath in, just allow yourself to feel your body, your legs, your arms. When you're breathing in and out, and you feel that sensation, it's actually in flow, right? There is a feeling of flow. Now I want you to imagine yourself, just stay there in that space, keep your eyes closed. And I want you to imagine this flow as a river. When a river is running, what is it doing? It is flowing. Our life is constantly flowing. If you're breathing, you're flowing. You might be in a little creek at the moment and maybe not a huge wide river filled with the energetic existence of what your true potential is, but you're always flowing. You're always moving forward. Your river is always going in a particular direction of the existence of your life. Sometimes there'll be rapids. Sometimes there'll be a stream that connects to the boundary of your river. And that stream is someone else's river. That's someone else just entering your life for a moment. They're letting in a little bit of their water into your river. But it's only a moment. People only connect with us for moments in our long life, in our long journey. Those events that happen to us. That's just a little stream that's cut into our boundary, come into our river, possibly polluted a little bit of our water. But when we look at the journey of our river, in the 70, 80, 90, 100 years that it's traveling, that little stream is just but a dot in the evolution of our life. Now, if you just looked over to the left or the right, you'll see other rivers. That's everyone else's journey. Everyone's got a river. Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone has to learn something individually. And our acceptance that someone else has to grow too, and we were just in a moment of their learning, is what we have to understand and allow forgiveness to come in for them, because that's the acceptance of someone else. That's the acknowledgement of someone else. Our purpose to get you into a state of leadership is to be in flow in your river consistently. Not a glass. You are not a glass. You're not a full glass. You're not half a glass. You're not an empty glass. You're a river. People come to you to drink from your waters, to learn your wisdom, to be acknowledged, seen, and heard. The more powerful that we get to flow in our river, the more understanding that we have for others, and the acceptance that everyone has their own journey to live, their own river to run. Sometimes people will enter in a stream and they had to learn something by experiencing something possibly negative with us. You can come back now. Open your eyes. So forgiveness is super important, and one of the hardest steps in the whole journey of these 5 steps. We can't miss any of these steps. If we miss one of these steps, we still are hooked to a scenario. We're still hooked to an event. The 4th step is heal, healing, heal. Once we acknowledge, once we accept, once we forgive, we can actually allow ourselves gracefully to heal. Now, because forgiveness is one of the hardest steps, a lot of people will jump into the healing. They'll go acknowledge, accept, heal. And they'll forget about the forgiveness. Well, maybe forget is the wrong word. It's more, they're not ready to forgive. But without forgiving, you can't heal, because our healing is associated to forgiving. And a lot of people I've seen, I've met a lot of them, they've been going to healers for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, still healing the same thing, the same event, the same story, still going over the process. And most of the time, the reason why they're stuck in this loop is because they haven't forgiven. They've acknowledged, accepted, going into the healing, but the true forgiveness hasn't been acknowledged. The forgiveness of self, forgiveness of others, heal. And the very next step after that, the 5th step, is release. Once we go through the 4 steps, acknowledging, accepting, forgiving, and healing, we get to a place of release. Release is the place where, you'll never forget things, and you're not meant to, because you are a story, you are a book, you are a movie. You get to choose what chapter you want to write next. You get to choose what film you want to direct next. You're the creator, you always were, you always will be. Every single person here has a drop of God inside them. You were always born as a creator. It's your choice to choose to accept that acknowledgement of your own self. Whatever scenario that you're in, whatever you've been in, was always your journey, your river of life, to grow, to evolve, to understand, to discover your purpose and the reasons why you're here as a leader. Why are you here as a leader? Why do people want to lead? They want to lead because they want to share things. They want to share wisdom. They want to give back to people. They want to give back to communities. Super important what leadership is. Okay. Does anyone have any questions at this point? Otherwise, I'm going to move on to the next step.
Kane, before you move on very quickly, super powerful, and thank you so much. And something that Kane said that is super, super powerful. Everything he said is powerful. However, there is one thing that I want to repeat to everybody here. And this is the difference between sharing your story to heal and ruminating over your story to remain stuck, right? So this is very different. Everything starts with context and intention. If you're sharing your story in order to process your emotions, to go through this beautiful sequential steps Kane suggested, acknowledging and forgiving and understanding and accepting and transforming, transcending, and so forth, this is how you evolve through your energy center to share and culminate. And then through this culmination, you create revival. Now, on the other side of the spectrum is when we share our stories to play the victimhood card or to access parts of our psyche that are addressing the victimhood mentality or the self-pity and so forth. And ultimately, again, it's so powerful to remember all of us that how you share is truly the foundation of the result. If you remember in the beginning of our mastermind, Kane specifically reminded us about the power of tonality, the voice you use, even in your head, even when you are not sharing your words vocally, you're still talking to yourself. And everything starts here in the subconscious mind. So even when you're sharing your story with yourself in the privacy of your own world, to speak kindly to yourself, to speak with compassion towards yourself, others, and specifically to talk to yourself with this maturity of the parent who is ever so gently guiding the inner child in you. This is all I'm going to say, and let's continue with Kane.
Brilliant. Thank you, Anna Marie. Maria, so you just raised a really, really great point here, which is the inner child, right? And this is super important. So just so you have an idea of my history, I've spent over 3 decades in the film and entertainment industry, mostly as an actor. Now, actors go through a very well-trained actors, let me just say, well-trained actors go through a very deep, complex understanding of self. They are trained in a lot of healing procedures, healing games, healing processes to understand their own self, their own emotions, their own experiences. And the reason why they do that is because they have to play other people. Now, if you don't understand who you are, and if you've, as an example, if you're trained in method acting, which is going into a psychology of someone else, you can lose yourself in that state, in that energy, in that mentality, in that psychology, if you're not really truly understanding and grounding yourself and using the tools necessary to understand who you are, bring yourself back to who you are. You would have all heard the stories of actors losing it, becoming alcoholics and drug addicts, and that's because 2 reasons. 1, they're either not trained properly. 2, they forgot to utilize the tools that were necessary to connect to self. Super important to understand why we have to understand ourselves and why it's a powerful tool in speaking, in leadership, by understanding ourselves. So as I was saying, everything is energy. Our inner child is an energy. Now, one thing that actors are well trained in is to connect to the inner child. Why is that? The reason for that is because the inner child is filled with joy. The inner child is filled with safety when we allow it to be safe. It's filled with creativity, imagination, freedom. All these things exist in all of us 100% of the time, if we allow it. The allowance of being creative, and one of the points that Anna Marie brought up for me to bring up was spontaneity. How do you bring spontaneity in? Well, that's actually connecting to your inner child. It's being open to your environment and being present. So one of the most important abilities of receiving someone's energy is not blocking them. So when you're speaking, when you're conversing, relationship, mother, father, child, on a stage, giving a keynote presentation, if you feel like you're blocking your energy somehow, the audience, the person, will feel the block more so than what it is that you're saying. And the reason for that is because we receive so much energy from the body. our body. Our body is a communicator. It's an energy communicator. And if we're not connected to our body and we're staying in our head when we're talking, or, you know, we're listening to a child and they're telling us something and we're worried about a particular problem, maybe something at work or something like that, they will feel that you're not listening to them. They will feel unheard. They won't feel seen. It's the same with a colleague, your partner, presentation, video, same. Your ability to connect to your present moment, be here, be now, be connected to your inner child, let them play. Because when you're open to that energy, you'll be open to something dropping in. So I see a lot of keynote speakers, I see a lot of public speakers, I see them following a script. They will do a script of a, let's say, because we're talking about story, a story, right? And it'll be word for word, word for word, word for word, right? The trouble with that is that you'll go into a performance. You'll go into your head. This is the information that I need to relay. Once we go into our head, we're disconnected from our heart. We're not allowing spontaneity to come in because we're in our head and we're forcing the giving. We're like teaching. Must tell this, must tell this, must tell this, must tell this. I need to pause here. But everything is different. Every moment is different. Every audience is different. Every person is different. And you have to be open to receiving the energy of where people are at, which is spontaneity. Because you might all of a sudden hear, as an example, you might be doing a live stage presentation as an example, and someone yells out something. If you ignore it, you're blocking it. If you use it, you're accepting the energy and you get to change how that energy is converted. Because energy is always there. We just manipulate the energy to shift into another energy. So our ability to be fully aware of all things around us while we're speaking, while we're listening. Remember, as Anna Maria was saying, listening. Well, listening is being present. Listening is communication. You might be sharing a story and you hear someone maybe start crying. Maybe it's a sad story and you hear someone cry. Play with the energy. Acknowledge it. Pause. Allow people to take something in. Pausing is an energy. And leadership is a state. Your state of being present as a leader, listening and understanding and looking at the screen and watching each individual and seeing the reactions and some no reactions. That's me being present with you now. Someone could put up their hand and ask me something, well, that's being spontaneous and working with it. You saw me say something earlier and I lost my train of thought. Oh, where'd I go? I had to come back, but I stayed in my state of leadership. And that's just being present, breathing deeply. The moment we start shallow breathing, this is really important too. The moment that we start shallow breathing, we go into a head state. Our diaphragm, our Dante, is where everything happens. It's our true connection. It's our breath. Our breath is our flow. Remember the river. We're always in flow. We need to allow it to be in flow. So the deeper that we breathe, the more present we'll be because we're getting fuel. We're allowing ourselves to relax. We're not having to force our shoulders back and chest out and pretend that we're someone else. No, it's not about that. It's about being in the moment. It's about being connected to self. It's about being connected to your heart and allowing your inner child to be free. And know that anyone can ask you anything at any point. And if you have a fear about something about your story, you create a block. And the moment that there is a block, there is a block of energy. And when there is a block of energy inside you, over a long period of time associated to an event that's happened to you, that block will then manifest something physical in your body. That's just the way the body works. It's been proven again and again and again and again. I've got a very close friend who had cancer last year, and it was around a block. And she's a yoga instructor. She's extremely healthy, but there was a block associated to something in her past. She hadn't dealt with it. She didn't accept it. And she got cancer. She was on her deathbed. She was skin and bones. She was really serious. Like she couldn't get out. She had people nursing her for a couple of weeks. She's got 2 young kids. Yeah, it was pretty extraordinary. She did some deep healing, some sound healing, kinesiologists. She went and saw a whole range of different people. We had a discussion. I had a discussion with her. We brought up some things that were going on in our own mind. We made some connections. And when she got that, when she did the release of certain aspects from her past, she went back to the doctor and the cancer had gone. What did the doctor say? Oh, extraordinary. Can't explain it. Don't know. Whatever you did, keep doing it. Our existence and the way we view it, our perception, will affect our energy, and it's super important. Does anyone have any questions about spontaneity?
Ken, if you allow me to share a question, I know there is someone here that is going to ask you that. And for those of you who just came, this is impossible to summarize. You have to watch the recording. However, again, if there is one most important takeaway from this mastermind, given that we have clients that work with Ken and clients that work with me, and all of you here are doing the inner work and storytelling and leadership. However, if there is one takeaway that I want to introduce for everybody, it is the power of remembering. All of you here know it. So it's about remembering, right? Knowing, remembering. It is about remembering that if there is anything at all going on in your life, this creates a block. Suppressing it, hiding from it, creating moments of frustration, creating moments of frustration. This is exactly what I said. So creating moments of frustration or embarrassment, shame, and so forth. This is actually creating a facade between ourselves and our true experience. And one question that I'm sure someone here has, speaking of spontaneity. So let's say that half of you here are natural spontaneity. You are absolutely ready to go. If I am to wake you up in the middle of the night, you're going to say, Ana Maria, I'm ready for it. Now, some of you might be more timid. This is totally fine. So for those of our members here that are naturally more introverted, or they may kind of withdraw to overthinking or overanalyzing, what is your best strategy for people who are in their head and they want to learn how to be more kinesthetic?
Ooh, okay, great. You know, I think the greatest way to bring this notion in is understanding that there are no mistakes in your existence and that when something arrives, that it's you that has the choice to say yes or no. That choice is always up to you. You will if you are in a momentum of creation towards your own purpose, if you have started doing work within yourself and started creating the world, your next chapter, your story, your existence, you will start attracting certain things that just drop in, because it'll be aligned to your river, to your path, to your journey. The allowance of allowing yourself to be spontaneous and saying, yes, how interesting. Let's look at this deeper. Let's go with this. Where's it going to go? If you're in a position where you've maybe hit rock bottom and you're still in a little bit of a whirlwind, cyclone, you could be in a state of depression, you could be a state of anxiety and finding life really hard, and maybe you're quite negative at that point in your journey. When you're in that state, things will happen, or opportunities will come, but they're harder to see. But that you'll also get opportunities of negativity too, because that's what's resonating from you. So remembering that we're always a reflection of what is going on the outside is what's going on the inside. So the more that we're trying to reflect on the inside, we're allowing ourselves to look at the positive. Remember, there's only two choices in the world. And some people will say, actually, I've had some people say, but you can be neutral. There's three. And yeah, okay. Yes, you can be neutral, but that's because you haven't made a decision. And by not making a decision, you're not moving forward. So you're actually creating a block by being neutral. So there's only ever two choices, positive or negative. So if we feel ourselves with positive, okay, everything that happened to me had a positive reason for happening. So everything that comes into my existence in that moment, there must be a positive in it. There must be something that I can learn that is positive. So what is it? So to answer that question of how do we get into a state of being open to something that is dropping in on us, someone calling us, someone reaching out, someone knocking on our door in the office, and there's always a reason. It's up to us to choose what to see in that reason. Is that clear, Anna Marie?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, Anna Maria, thank you, Kane. Yes, absolutely. And I really believe that this is such a beautiful reminder for all of us. Of course, intellectually, everybody here knows that life is about choices. Life is about making an empowered decision. Life is about realizing that everything is working for you. And ultimately, if I may add something from my own experience, it is in those moments when we are tested, when all of your work, I know some of you have been on the healing journey for years, decades even. All of your work, as I like to say, I actually have one meditation on attracting networking opportunities. And in this meditation, this is exactly what the message is about. All of your work, all of your internal work is being revealed in those moments, 30 seconds, when you're being tested. Or let's say it's the opposite. Let's say you're not being tested. Let's say you're being given an excellent opportunity to meet somebody. It is in these 30 seconds when you are fully present, when you say yes or you say no. And as Kane said, there are situations when just being meh leads to meh results, right? You have to be yes or no. Every time when you say yes, you say no to something else, and vice versa. When Kane and I connected, we either we said yes to this opportunity, right? So this is why he's here, or I am in his presence, or vice versa, doesn't matter, right? Every choice we make has this consequence. And ultimately, going off what he said in a very beautiful, eloquent way, it is in those moments when you are tested or you are being given an opportunity. And one more thing that I want to add, speaking of this cognitive dissonance that all of us experience, raise your hand if you have ever been given a chance to finally realize your dream and then you said no because you were scared. You withdrew back to your default. All of us have done it. It's human nature. It's called creative brain. And when we do it, we say no to our most authentic potential. So to sum up everything that Kane said by this point, I would summarize it in this intention to be mindful. What are you saying yes or no to? And is it coming from your heart or is it coming from your head? When you say yes to life and you say it from the heart, you are spontaneous because everything works for you and you co-create with the universe. Now, when you say no out of fear, you shrink and then your voice loses power, then you freak out, then of course everything is down spiral. And who wins? Nobody. And finally, before we continue again with Kane, if I am to give everybody here, at least from my clients, since I have the authority to give you action steps, one action step that I have for all of you here, preferably, is to really give yourself that freedom, that permission, if you wish, to be mindful. To be mindful, who or what do you say yes to? And to get in the habit of saying empowered yeses and to say empowered no's. And this will really, it will show you your way forward. When you say yes to what you deserve and you say no to what is no longer in alignment with your values.
Beautiful, Anna Maria. Thank you. Now, there's a couple of other points that Anna Maria wanted me to raise, which was confidence on camera and captivating stories that hook. So there's confidence on camera. Well, we've been going through the whole aspect of what energy is. And being confident on camera has everything to do with just speaking to one person. If you are wanting to speak on camera, then remember it's just one person. And to help, there's a couple of different ways. You can get a little photo, put it next to the lens of someone you love. And depending on the message that you're sending out, if you're sending out messages of inspiration, maybe it's a photo of your son or your daughter. Maybe it's something that you want to express in your own wisdom. And it's that person that you want to get that message across to. That's part of being authentic on camera, having a conversation. Just remember, you're not trying to tell people something. People don't like to be told things. They want to share. Just like a conversation, like Anna Maria was talking about earlier with her friend, she was sharing. When we go into a state of sharing, like telling your own story, that's sharing. You're not telling anybody anything. You're sharing an experience. And that's why I mentioned before, don't write the script. You can write the script initially, but don't say it word for word. Work with it. Just allow it to come. Place yourself back into that scenario of these are the things. When we're going over scenes, that we have to think of the six senses. It's that intuitive state. What was your intuition thinking at that point in time in that scene? And when we're talking about stories, we're choosing moments. We're not trying to tell a life story in 1 minute. right? Because you can't express the emotion, you can't express the thought, you can't express the instigator. So when we're extracting a story, to keep it simple, this is the simplest way to look at how to go back. So if you look at your journey, right, and you see yourself as an eagle and you start flying over the top of your existence, of your life, of your story, of your journey, right? And you're just observing the scenarios of what took place. In the observation of looking at a moment in your life, there'll be certain things of the instigation of something. Almost at every single point, something instigates a new thought, a new emotion, whether it's what someone said, whether it's something that moved, the color of something, the sound of something, the taste of something. Something always instigates a new thought, a new emotion. You can have 10 thoughts and emotions in the matter of seconds. To give you an idea, hands up, who's been in a car accident? Okay. Did the world slow down? Did the whole scene slow down? Yes. You saw 1,000 things in the matter of seconds. Yeah. Our mind is processing stuff. There is so many different thoughts in the matter of seconds. There's so many different emotions. And there's the instigation of what was going on. Just like any conversion with another person, whether it's like, I'm going to share this. I wasn't in a car accident, but I was so close to being in a car accident, it was like I was in a movie. Okay, we were traveling. My friend and I were traveling in a car, and we're on the highway going towards Brisbane Airport. We're going to the airport to fly back up to where I live now. And we just finished a huge corporate team building event, and we were having a chat, and we're driving around, and we're going around this huge corner on the highway, right? We were traveling at around about, I think they were doing some roadworks at this point. So the speed had dropped down to 80 kilometers an hour. Well, as we were talking, I'd mentioned, one of my kids downloaded this car game on my phone, right? And I got my phone out and I was like, the graphics are incredible. I can't believe that these graphics are incredible. And the game started. And as the game started, the sound of the game was this race car going, roar, right? And exactly at the same time, a Ford, a sports car, went past our window, missed our rearview mirror by this much, with the same sound. Roar! And I was like, oh, what the hell was that? And as he passed us, he swerved in front of us. And as he swerved, he would have been traveling at about 140 kilometers, right? We were going at about 80. He swerved in front of us. And as he swerved in front of us to get into the next lane, he hit the car that was in front of us on the corner of their bumper bar, and it flung them across 4 lanes across the highway into the concrete barrier, bounced them backwards, came back, hit another car in front of us. The car that had sped past us then hit another car, got slammed into the opposite concrete barrier, bounced across the 5 lanes into the other concrete barrier. This was all happening within 10 meters in front of us. 4 cars crisscrossing in front of us at 80 kilometers an hour. one of the wheels came off one of the other cars that bounced back into the concrete barrier and bounced over our car this far from our windscreen. And we both just watched it in slow motion. Right? And as we part, this is all in the matter of about 6 or 7 seconds. There was so many emotions, so many thoughts, so many instigating things that happened. This car hit that wall, that car hit that wall. We're all taking in the energy. And as we turned around, we were the only car moving forward, and the whole highway was blocked. And we both looked at each other. We were just like, "You okay?" "Yeah, I'm okay." "So you're okay?" The guy, my friend that was driving, he was shaking. He was like, man, he was an ex-police officer, right? He was shaking. He was like, "Look at my hand, man." He said, "I can't believe nothing hit us." That there is a moment. Everyone has a moment that is filled with thoughts, emotions, instigations. What was happening? What did that person say? How did that make you feel? What was the thought? What did you do? Going deeper into what is going on around you in the presence of that moment is where you get the magic of how people connect. And when I say that, it is, how many people have been in a war zone? Hands up. Okay. Anyone else? Right. I've never been in a war zone. I don't understand the circumstance of, is it Boyan? Boyan? Is that your name?
Yes, it's Boyan.
Boyan. Okay. I can't understand the circumstance of being in a war zone. So if you were telling me a story about being in a war zone and you were just documenting the scenario, I wouldn't connect to it because I don't understand it. I can't, I've never been in it, so I can't relate. But what I relate to is the emotion. It is the emotion. Just like that car accident that we weren't in, what I was feeling, fear. Fear pumped through my veins, right? Anxiety, astonishment. Watching a wheel miss us. Just going, holy shit, can you believe that didn't hit us? Woo! That fear, the emotion, the anxiousness, the trembling. Who do we call? The questions. Are you okay? Everyone can relate to the emotion. Through our lives, we go through most emotions. So when we're bringing up a story, we need to reflect on the emotion of what was happening to us, emotionally, because that's where people connect. That's what they relate to. And that is why when you see war movies, they will bring in love. They will bring in friendship. When you're watching a documentary of a war, you're just getting told information. And you're going, that's interesting. But when you're watching a movie or reading a book about a war, it's about the love. It's about the loss. It's about the emotion of connection with someone. It's about the loss of connection of someone. It's about being in a position of maybe being shot a few times and the fears of dying. There's been, I mean, there was a moment for me where it's only ever happened once, where I've had my life flash before my eyes. And I wasn't in a war zone. I was only 12 years old. But when people say your life flashes before your eyes, it's the most extraordinary experience. You see thousands of images in a second. Thousands. It's extraordinary. Extraordinary. And it's so hard to explain. And this one moment that happened to me at 12 years old, right? Weird. I don't know why. But maybe I had a fear that I was going to die. And it was because I was in a bike accident on a BMX. I was cruising down this hill. Me and a mate were racing each other, right? And it was a massive dirt hill in this new building area. So it was a new housing estate. And this dirt hill hadn't been developed yet. And we were cruising down on BMXs as fast as we could, right? And down the bottom was a flat area where they'd flattened it to put a house on there to build a block. And then the next drop, it dropped down 10 feet to another flattened area where they just started building a house. And there was a big brick wall there, right? About 6 feet away from that drop. And as we were cruising down, we were going down and we hit this platform and my mate hit his brakes and he did this massive skid and dirt went everywhere. And I was being smart and I was like, I'll make it even bigger. And I'll go closer to the edge, to the drop off to show that I'm tougher, right? And I've got closer to the edge and I've hit my brakes and the cable snapped. The freaking brake cable snapped. And I looked down, looked up, saw the brick wall in front of me, went off the edge. My life flashed before my eyes, let go of the bike. Somehow, I don't even know how, I missed the wall, landed on my knees from a 10-foot drop, split my knees open, massive hole, like got up in shock, looked at this gaping hole in my knee and started bawling my eyes out. I was so shit scared that moment my brake cable snapped. The fear that ran through me, I froze as a 12-year-old because I wasn't expecting that. My life flashed before my eyes. Like I said, it's not a war zone. But for a 12-year-old thinking that they're going to get squished on a brick wall that's 6 feet in front of them, going at high speed, must have been pretty damn frightening. Must have shit myself. And I did. I did shit myself. The emotions of our scenes is what people connect to. The fear, the anxiety, the hurt. It's super important in our storytelling to really understand the six senses. You know, the sight, the hearing, the touch, the smell, the taste, the intuition. What was the intuition saying in that moment? When that gut feeling in that moment, what was it saying in that scene? What was it saying in that moment? Does anyone have any questions?
Something very quickly regarding Buyan. This was, you were so intuitive when you offered the example with the war experience, because Buyan is ex-military and he's now writing his memoir about recovering from PTSD. And he also writes poetry, and he is empowering men to embrace vulnerability as a superpower, which as a male, I'm sure you can perceive as very, very valuable. And for Buyan, what Kane said is absolutely on point. How to transfer your experience, even though, of course, you are speaking to men who have been dealing with war-like experiences. However, regardless of who are you sharing your story with, as Kane said, we all have experienced fear. Most of us have experienced grief or loss. Most of us have experienced heartbreak or heartache. Most of us have experienced dealing with narcissists or manipulators, or all of us have experienced a lot of things. And when we share our story from that coherence, from meeting people where they are to guide them to where we want them to go. And one more element, and Ken is exhibiting this skill, this high level skill throughout his whole presentation. And I just want to unmask it for you. What is he doing, as you are probably witnessing yourselves, is that he's masterfully presenting stories in the form of education. So even though he's not teaching you, he's showing you. He's showing you through stories how to bring elements from daily life and from his 20, 30 years experience as a highly trained actor and now a coach. And he's showing you how everything is so intertwined. And this subconsciously creates relevance, and it helps you boost your credibility in the speaker. When they are on your level in regards of emotional coherence, and at the same time, you can feel that this person has authority. This person knows something you don't. And this triggers the curiosity. This triggers the curiosity because you're hooked. And this is one of the outcomes I wanted to cover today, and Kane did a brilliant job. How to create stories that hook your audience. Instead of creating passive followers on social media, we create loyal fans. And this is applicable to every situation, regardless if you're speaking to your children, to your partner, to your team members, to an audience. How to hone this ability to keep people on their toes, because you're telling them something so captivating, and they cannot lose their attention span. And by the way, the short attention span is a myth. Is a myth. Yes, we are bored out of our minds with common marketing and all of this messages you see on social media. However, when we hear a good story, all of us are, oh, tell me more. I really want to hear more about that. And without further ado, Ken, where can we hear more about you? And if someone wants to follow you on social media, can you tell us more about that?
Yes, well, I'm the only Kane Sirota Novak in the world. So if you just Googled me, you would see just me. I'm on Facebook as Kane Sirota Novak. I'm on LinkedIn as Kane Sirota Novak. I'm just about to relaunch a new Facebook group. So there will be a new Facebook group. It's only got a working title, so I won't release that one just yet. I'm also in the Infinity Wellness Group. So that's a website, Infinity Wellness Group, that is a hub of coaches and healers, transformational coaches, psychologists, and things like that. So a beautiful, beautiful community of growth, and allowing people to come in there to help expand their own consciousness and their awareness. So it's all a lot of soul-based stuff in association to awakening and heading towards ascension. And there is one thing that Anna Maria, that you've just mentioned that I really want to just make a point on. Do you mind? Okay. You brought up vulnerability, and I haven't mentioned it once yet. And this is super, super important in all storytelling, is allowing you to understand that your vulnerability allows people around you to be vulnerable. If you don't show and demonstrate yourself as the person that can show your own vulnerability, that can show your own experiences, then you don't allow other people to be able to sit in a safe space where they feel safe to share their vulnerability. And this is part of I mean, this is what coaching is about. Is coaching? Coaching is a leadership position where even speaking is a leadership position. And when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we allow other people to open their hearts to be vulnerable. And you might be doing a keynote presentation, for an example, and people aren't communicating with you in that way, but they will be there with someone. And sometimes they'll walk out of there, just like a good movie. It'll open the door on conversations and thought processes, especially when there's vulnerability that is demonstrated by the person that's sharing, because that creates an open door. Oh, it's okay to share this stuff. I was sexually assaulted at 11 years old. That's a vulnerability for me as a man, right? To be able to know that I let people know that, because there's men out there that don't share that because there's a big block for men, because it's quite damaging to the ego, right? You're a man, you've been sexually assaulted. How do I live with that? How do I acknowledge that? How do I process that? How do I let other people know that? It is a process, and it's a very powerful process when we can sit in our own humility, to be able to acknowledge ourselves of the challenges that we faced and the tools and the actions that we needed to take to rise above so we could share for others. Make no mistake. Remember the journey of life, your river. Your story is your story, and it's individual. Everyone's is different, and everyone had a purpose. Every single person here and in the world has a purpose to their story. And when we take the reins of our own life to understand that there was a purpose for our story, then we take the mantle of leadership to express our wisdom for others to see the light, to see a path, that it's possible to get to a place that you're at, to get to a place of peace, acceptance, love, and joy. To get to there and to hold the light for other people to see, so they can be vulnerable, so they know it's safe to actually share themselves, so it's safe to drop the walls around their own heart so they can be themselves. Because we're only ourselves when we drop the walls around our own heart. When we have walls around our heart, we don't actually let love in. And we wonder why we don't have good relationships, because we're blocking people, because we think we're protecting ourselves. But in our protection, we diminish our own light. We diminish what we can actually magnetically attract into us and into our heart. So the more present that we are in knowing if we have any walls around our heart center, to allow ourselves to be truthful, to be vulnerable, and know that, yeah, life is going to be filled with ups and downs, pains and hurts. Yes. And it won't stop. You'll never stop yourself from feeling the loss of something. It's always going to happen as we get older. But sitting in the presence that everything is a gift, every experience was a gift for our acknowledgement and our own learning to be the leaders that we are, so we can present ourselves as the person that's present, as the person of safety, as the person to have others be heard and be seen, so they too can connect to their own love. Remember, everyone's yearning to be loved, but love starts with self. And our own love, when it's magnetically expanding out and accepting of others we attract that love back. So that's all I had to say about vulnerability. So thank you for bringing that point up, Anna Maria.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
And now what we always do at the end of our mastermind sessions is to open up for our breakthroughs and takeaways. And Kane, if you are okay with that, I would love to hear your beautiful voices. And if I have permission to include your people, I would love to hear from everybody here. What is your top takeaway, appreciation, or insight? Starting with Victoria.
Oh, my takeaways. Wow. So many things that I took from this conversation. Wow. One thing that I want to say is that every experience in life is a gift. And until today, I didn't view it that way. I viewed experiences as, why did it happen to me? Why did God do this to me? Why all the experiences? And of course, bad experiences are bad. And why other people have beautiful experiences and mine are bad. And as I listen to Kane, I can tell now that that's a way for me to connect the dots and to understand that I have a journey, and this is my journey. And I have to accept it. And it starts with self-love. And I have to remove all the blocks in order to find my purpose. Thank you so much. This was so powerful for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. And remember that you already found your purpose. So it's now time to share your story. And something that Victoria mentioned that I want to reintroduce to the entire group today. And this is the premise that we live in a mirroring universe. The universe is never punishing us. The universe is only revealing our inner belief system. When our inner belief system is that things are happening against us, to punish us, to put us down, to remove us from the collective joy and happiness, we become outsiders of our own experiences. Now, when we choose to have the belief that we are taking our divine place in all orchestration of all events across all timelines, when we adopt the belief that things are happening for us as a beautiful expression of our evolution, most importantly, when we adopt the belief that through the cracks, as Brené Brown said, the light comes in, this is when we begin to illuminate the light of the cosmos. And whether we choose to call it God, higher power, universe, or the ultimate expression of your absolute truth, it is through this light when you choose to illuminate your inner world through your expression and your story. And Mike?
I really love the analogy of the river and the streams. I did have a question on that because I have a few other people's streams in my river that they continue to break over my banks and get into my river. How do I, how can I get past the forgiveness stage if they keep breaking into my river?
This is a big question, man. So forgiveness. So let me just ask you: are they family?
Well, it's my ex-wife and her son.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. So, okay.
and we still work together because we started a business together. That's why there's even any interaction at all.
Oh, brother, this here is the very notion of you stepping more into your own power, stepping into the more of your own existence, and stepping into more of who you are. Um, it's always your choice of how you feel, even though people will throw things at us and can instigate an emotion, right? They'll instigate an emotion and a thought, and we're like, oh. But we always get to choose how we negotiate that energy into something else. So I've been divorced as well. And I had children when I was in my very early 20s with someone who was a highly dysfunctional relationship. So I had 2 children there as well. And there was a lot of parental alienation. There was domestic violence. I was the victim for that. And that's what created, I had to leave because I saw that it was wrong. It took me a while to figure out that it's not right, but I got there. The divorce that I went through in like 4.5 years ago, one of the most important aspects that I had to keep asking myself, because there was a lot of confrontation, and that confrontation was because there was she got together with someone else, and that someone else was someone that she worked with, that we knew, and our kids were all at school together, right? So it was highly confrontational on a very public aspect. The biggest question that I always had to ask myself was, how would love respond? You know, I went through a spate there, and understanding your values, being really, really, really clear about what your values are. The clearer that you are on your values, and if someone is triggering you or trying to trigger you, I should say, people do that, right? People will try to trigger you to instigate some sort of response from you that they want, right? So unfortunately, some people do that. And if that's what you're receiving and their stream is still connected to your river, just remember, it's just a stream. It's just a little bit of water that's coming in. And yes, you have to deal with that energy, but it's always your choice. You're the river. You get to choose what your river does in that moment. You get to choose and ask the question, well, how's love going to respond to this one? How should I remember? We have to accept everyone. If we're going to travel to ascension, if we're going to get into a space of love, we have to be fully accepting of everyone around us and know that we can't control anyone else except for ourselves.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And if you have a child there, then children watch and learn from your behavior. So when they're watching and learning from your behavior, then as a parent, we're all aware as parents, we are given the reins of leadership, whether we like it or not. And we're endowed with that process. So when I was going through my divorce, my biggest thing was, right, how do I turn this into a positive? How do I break through my emotions? How do I ride through the stages of grief quickly? And it's all inner stuff. It's all inner work, right? It's got nothing to do with anyone else. And by the way, grief, let me give you the analogy of grief that I created. Graciously reclaiming inner self earns freedom. Okay, so grief is a journey. It's an inner journey. And until you graciously reclaim your own self in that journey, you won't earn the freedom that is necessary to come to a place of release. And it's all based around love. Everything is love, brother. So the answer to your question is, I would ask you, how would love respond? What leadership skills can you demonstrate in what is your values in your existence. And remember that your child is always watching.
This is very powerful, Kane, and I know that we are over time. So before we continue with other people, one more thing that is even, it's another form to think about it, because I know, Mike, when you visualize yourself that you are this stream of water and there are other streams entering your water, a response of empowerment is to remember that you have the choice. If you are deciding to intertwine with their streams for this specific time of history, that is propelling you forward. Everything that is happening right now with their stream is actually making your stream even more powerful for the business we're launching. And this is another action step for everybody here, to remember that you're always in charge of where are you going with your direction. Nobody can enter your energy field unless you allow them, even if you are corresponding with them. I know sometimes we have liaisons that have to exist for a certain time period, and even then you still have the power to protect your energy field. And with that said, we're going to continue with the rest of the group. I know Polly just came and she's going to watch the recording. It was super powerful. Boyan, quick comment, takeaway, or breakthrough.
Okay. First, Kane, thank you for your time. And I'll be brief this time because I have a lot of things, but I will say only that God don't put us into something we can go through it, and is about to us if we take our journey or like is a curse or a lesson or blessing. Thank you.
Very powerful. Thank you so much. We have Hector. Hector, so good to have you with us. I hope you had a blast. Your top takeaway. If you're open to share. Hector once, Hector twice.
Check. I'm here.
So
Can
good
you
to
hear
have you with
me?
us.
Okay.
Yes, thank you so
Right,
much.
right.
for being here.
So first of all, I am a Kane fan, and absolutely love the man. I think he's just marvelous. He's my mentor, and I appreciate the opportunity of being here. While I was listening, I had two things I just dropped in. Number one is that nothing that happens to us is a curse, or nothing that happens to us, everything that happens to us is neither good nor bad. It's just not so. Until we get a greater revelation of who we really are, then we get to see the pieces and how they fit, right? Weeds are not bad in our life. They are just messengers that tell us a different story. Sometimes the hardest lesson to learn are the hardest situations in our life. So that's one. And the second one is that we all swim in an ocean like a fish. We think that fish, well, at least we theorize that fish do not know that they are in the water. And if that's the case, then we don't know that we are in an ocean of emotions. It's not emotions are happening to us. We're swimming in a whole place of emotion. And that's why we can all connect, because the moment you move an emotion, the other person feels that vibration, like pushing water on somebody else, right? So those are two things that just dropped into my mind while I was listening. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. And I absolutely love having you. And we have an old client of mine who just joined. However, Polly is a wonderful public speaker, and she has a powerful story to share. Polly, I know that you just came. However, if there is anything you want to share with the group, now it's your chance.
Well, how Hector said, I'm swimming in all kinds of emotions right now. I'm trying to organize an event that I organize at work every quarter, and I've never been so behind because a lot of things changed. My boss, was not there to remove obstacles for me when I needed things to be escalated and decisions to be made. And I'm quite low on the totem pole to be able to remove those. obstacles, but what's even worse, like I cannot see out of my left eye, and I'm like, this is the worst time that this can happen, but I'm just like pushing through. And yeah, all these emotions, I think my fellow co-workers are feeling my emotions. Yeah, just too bad I couldn't, you know, dip into the wisdom and what was discussed before. But as you said, you know, I'll watch the recording, and hopefully Kane will be okay if I have questions to reach out. And thank you, Kane. But yeah, it's a great group of people. You know, life happens sometimes, so we just have to roll with it. And you know, we're stream. We have to be flexible. We have to just kind of roll with it, because otherwise nothing happens. You know, there's going to be a lot of resistance. So right now I'm just like, if I fail, I fail this quarter. You know, the quarterly planning will not be perfect, but so be it. So that's,
Absolutely.
I have to flow with it.
Beautiful, beautiful work, Polly. And again, to finish before we go to Outer with another brief story. And as Kane said earlier, how blocks manifest. Something that you may want to look into, or everybody else, is again how our mind sends the signals all the time. Maybe there is a truth that you are not seeing, and now it's time to see it. Something that happens, speaking of how life happens for us when you the least expected, just before this mastermind, someone or something hacked my domain. Kane knows about it. And interestingly enough, it's evolved with Ana Maria. And I thought to myself, who would want to steal my identity in a way? And this goes back to Mike's question, the power of being in your stream. I pulled my power and I told myself, this is my domain. This is my name and this is my work. How it happened, nobody knows. I have witnesses because I showed you and I told you exactly what happened. I created this domain on the fly. And after that, I decided to give it one more try. So I went to GoDaddy again. Miracle. My domain was there. I'm telling you, 10 minutes ago, it said your domain was stolen. It was a pure miracle. And all I did was to change my internal dynamic and to tell myself, this is my domain. So now next time we're going to meet at Evolve with Ana Maria. However, to finish on a very beautiful, I would say a beautiful message for all of us, today's meeting, it's evolving together. And again, coincidence or serendipitous reminder that through the power of our story, we connect together. And last but not least, beautiful Outer, who is catching a flight after this mastermind. So Kane, this is how much we honor your presence here. Outer, anything you want to share with the group?
First of all, Kane, I loved it. There's so many gems, and I just really liked Ana Maria and Kane riffing off each other. It was very powerful. Lots of stuff there to go through. The main thing, there's so many things, but just the part about the forgiveness piece before the healing, because I've done a lot of healing work and I'm like, okay, I see. I forgot a step. A lot about the energy. I do acting and improv work, and I'm like, oh my gosh, in my real life, I'm in my head all the time. It's totally different. So it's like, there's so many gems there. So a lot to work on. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. I would love for the group, if I have your permission, to stay for just one more minute because we need to discuss something for next week. Thank you. Kane, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to have you with us. And of course, we're going to send you the recording. Any final words you want to share with the group before you go?
Final words. Let me just acknowledge you, all of you that are here today. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being present. Thank you for sharing with me your acknowledgements of what has been raised within you. If I could leave you with anything today, it would be that we are all powerful creators, and we always were. And something that Ana Maria brought up before was our belief system. And one of the greatest things to remind ourselves is that Our belief system was a creation that was created on top of our soul, our heart space of who we truly are. And the reason why we go into our late 30s and 40s and start questioning so many things is because we're trying to open ourselves up even further. So allow yourself to understand that some of the belief systems were never yours. And your true belief systems are associated to your soul. So the deeper that you understand who you are, the more deeper you start resonating with what is good for you individually, what decisions work for you individually. And the more that you connect to that soul will just bring you more into a space of your true beliefs and not the belief systems that were projected upon you. So if I could leave you with anything, know that there is further belief systems that were actually born in this world for you to be represented as your own self and not something that was projected onto you. Fly and fly high is all I'll leave you with.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate you, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Take care. Bye.
And you please stay. Very good. Thank you so much that you, oh, let me finish the recording. If you're still watching, bye. Okay.